Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're still in our third cycle of 1995. This episode, we're talking about a movie, and in this episode, we're talking about Batman Forever. It came out, I think, that summer. I remember seeing it. I saw it, I think, opening night with my friend, and I think I went back like a few days later, maybe a week later, and saw it again. I remember having a lot of fun with it. And then I think I saw it maybe one more time, maybe at most two more times after it was like on HBO or like on like video or anything like that. Most recently watched it on HBO Max, and I had a really good time watching it. It was a lot of fun. But I got some notes here about this. We'll go through these notes, and then we'll get to the plot and all that kind of stuff. So let me just pull my notes here. So Batman Forever, first released June 16th, 1995. This one was much more campy than the two previous Tim Burton films. Tim Burton actually produced this one, but didn't direct. I think he said that he probably wasn't interested in directing a third anyway. So they went with Joel Schumacher. Completely different direction as for a lot of these. Like his two movies are way over the top, like really campy. And I remember, like when Batman and Robin came out. I remember that was the first movie I saw in theaters where I was kind of like really disappointed. But I think I've kind of had a turnaround at least on that one. And Batman Forever is still like a lot of fun. It's more fun than I remember it being because I hadn't seen it probably since like the fall of maybe 1995. So I had a lot more fun than I thought I would have going into this. And it kind of just shows that you can have various like flavors of Batman films. You know, you can have your kind of a little bit more darker films like the two Tim Burton movies. You could go completely the opposite direction and have it be just over the top, silly and campy with like the Joel Schumacher films. And then you can have these super serious, maybe more realistic versions like we'd get with the Christopher Nolan films and even like the Matt Reeves film that came out like a couple years ago now, I think. So there's just tons of different like flavors of Batman, and I think they're all equally interesting and equally fun. You just have to know going in which kind of film you're going to be getting. Let me see here. Apparently it had, let me see here, $100 million budget, and it ended up grossing $336 million. I just remember this film being huge when it came out, so it grossed pretty well. And one thing I will say, upon my most recent rewatch of this, is Val Kilmer in this movie is actually really good. I don't remember, like I said, it's been so long since I've seen it that I didn't remember like how good he actually is in the movie. I think he does a pretty good job playing Batman, but I think he does an actually really good job of Bruce Wayne as well. Probably more so than a lot of people probably give him credit for. Kind of like when they do a Batman film, you're basically playing two characters. Batman is usually the easier of the characters to play. The harder one that actually requires, I think, more acting is the Bruce Wayne role. I think my favorite Bruce Wayne though currently probably we'll have to wait and see what they do with Pattinson in the other, depending on how many more Batman films he's going to do. Probably my favorite Bruce Wayne currently is probably Christian Bale. I think he does an amazing job with that. Less so with Batman because it's just basically just doing his like gruff voice. But Val Kilmer does a really good job with Bruce Wayne. Like not quite as good as Christian Bale, of course, and does a decent enough job with Batman. I think Keaton did a really good job kind of balancing both of those roles as well. It's been a really long time since I've seen Batman and Robin, but I think people have had kind of like a turnaround on that film to where it's just so bad that it's good. I'll probably watch that movie for this series at some point. I don't know if it'll be on this upcoming cycle of 19. It probably won't be this upcoming 1997 cycle, but maybe on a future one we'll do Batman and Robin. But again, back to Val Kilmer is actually really good in this movie. I was actually kind of surprised because I don't remember how good he actually was. Also in the movie, kind of like right in the middle of kind of like this incredible run of Jim Carrey as the Riddler, because like prior to this, he'd done, and I think this 1995 was also the year they put out Ace Ventura 2. So a year prior to this, you had Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. Three just huge films there. 1995, you get Batman Forever. You get Ace Ventura 2. 1996, you get The Cable Guy. I don't know if he did anything else in 96 or not. And then 97, you get Liar Liar. I think what was the Me, Myself, and Irene, I think was like maybe a couple years after that. And then he kind of started doing some more serious roles. I don't know what the last movie I saw Jim Carrey in though was. I think it may have been like maybe Kick Ass 2. I'd have to check and see like his like IMDb or something. But Jim Carrey I think is actually probably kind of miscast in this role. I think he just leans a little too much into the slapstick nature of kind of like the stuff that he had done before, like especially like Ace Ventura and The Mask. Like there's scenes where like they're like we'll get to the plot a little bit later in the video, but there's scenes where he's attacking the Batcave, throwing bombs, and just doing all these very slapsticky kind of physical things. And like the bombs he's throwing, I'm talking about, he's like talking about birds, and he's like, it's weird when you introduce a domesticated animal into a foreign environment or something weird like that. It just doesn't feel like the Riddler necessarily. It feels almost like a different version of the Joker. There are he does some Riddler-esque stuff with like leaving the riddles for Batman to figure out, but it just feels it's way too. I think it's actually way too over the top. I still enjoyed the movie, but it was one thing where I think he could have, or Schumacher should have probably dialed it back on him just a little bit. So we got the Jim Carrey there. We also have Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. I think this is maybe the third Tommy Lee Jones movie I saw, because I think the first time I really took notice of him was in The Fugitive. Really good in that. And then I think he was in The Firm. It wasn't The Firm. It was wasn't The Pelican Brief. There was another. The author's name is escaping me right now. Let me actually just pull up Tommy Lee Jones's thing here. Open this up really quick. I think it was maybe The Client. I think is the movie I'm thinking of. It was like that was maybe a 1994, maybe 1995 film. Let me just see if he's got his filmography listed here. And what year was that? Was that 1994 maybe? 94. Let me see. Yeah, The Client was 1994. So I had seen him in The Fugitive, then saw him in The Client, and then saw him in this. So basically, you go from two pretty serious roles, like serious like acting, kind of like him playing the marshal in The Fugitive, to I think he was like a lawyer in The Client, to playing Two-Face in this, and he's over the top as well. And I think this is the version of Two-Face where he was going off of things based on two, like beginning of the movie, he robs a bank, he robs like Second National. It's not robbery, he's pretending to rob it to get to Batman, I think. But it's like the Second National Bank on the second anniversary of Batman catching him. My favorite version of Two-Face is probably, as far as like the films go, probably Aaron Eckhart, because I think he does a good job of balancing like the chaotic side and then also just like this mentally tortured kind of like person. Like I think that's probably my favorite like flavor of Two-Face. Instead of having one be like a nice character and the other one be like not as like and be like almost like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. I kind of prefer like I guess like the Jekyll and Hyde style instead of the ones where it's like literally doing crimes based on the number two, because I think that's kind of how Two-Face was initially like portrayed in the comics, was like it's the second anniversary of this thing. I'm gonna steal like $2 from this person, or maybe not $2, but you know what I mean. But Tommy Lee Jones, I think his performance is actually a little bit more balanced than Jim Carrey's. I think like he definitely does chew the scenery a little bit, but it's much less than Jim Carrey, and I think it fits in the character a little bit better than Jim Carrey did. You also have Chris O'Donnell showing up as Robin. So they kind of did first two films with just Batman. I guess you kind of have Catwoman as a sidekick in that one, but then they introduced Robin into this one, and then the next film as well. You have Michael Gough. I'm probably gonna mispronounce that name, but let me just pull this back. I think let me see how it's Michael Gouch. I'm not really sure how it's pronounced, But he was the Alfred for these initial four films, so the two Burton films and then the two Schumacher films. He's still really good at the role of Alfred. Um, Another thing I kind of run into this movie, and they definitely dialed it up in Batman and Robin, is like villain creep. In the first Batman film, you just have the Joker essentially as the main villain and some random like minions and henchmen. Batman Returns, you have Danny DeVito as the Penguin. You also kind of have Catwoman, kind of, even though I wouldn't put her necessarily in the villain role. But this one gives you basically two main villains and Two-Face and the Riddler. The next film gives you essentially three villains with who is it? I can't think of the guy's name. Mr. Freeze. Is it Mr. Freeze? I think. Yeah, Mr. Freeze. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll be trying to get the name right. It's like Doctor Freeze or whatever. But like, yeah, you have Mr. Freeze, you have Poison Ivy, and you have Bane in the third, or not the third movie, the fourth movie. So they started doing a little bit of the villain creep here, I think. So that kind of is a thing where you basically just have too many villains that it's like, it feels like it starts here, but I think like two is probably fine. Once you get to three, it's a little too much. Let me see here. People deemed, I guess, that Batman Returns was too dark, so they went with a kind of like a total shift with this movie, where it's still dark in parts, but they definitely like made it more vibrant, more like silly, maybe more kid friendly. I think a lot of like parents were probably also like turned off by like Michelle Pfeiffer's role. They thought maybe like Danny DeVito was over the top. So like I think a lot of people thought that Batman Returns was too dark. This is the way to kind of change the tone on that a little bit. There was a really big list of possible people that were cast or potentially being cast in this movie. Let me actually go down here. So there was like a lot of people that actually wanted to or were being considered for this, including, let me see, that was Robin. But where were we here? Oh yeah, so I'm just gonna list off some of these names. So they obviously settled on Val Kilmer, but they were even considering Keanu Reeves at one point. They were considering William Baldwin, potentially Alec Baldwin, Dean Cain from who was on the Lois and Clark TV show. I think they decided not to use him because he was already playing a superhero on that TV show. People were even like Tom Hanks' name was being thrown around a little bit. Same with Kurt Russell and Ray Fiennes. Daniel Day-Lewis and Johnny Depp are also like listed. People that were interested in playing the like that, considering the love interest, who's played by Nicole Kidman. Renee Russo, I think, was initially considered, but they switched her out because once they cast Kilmer, I think there was like a pretty decent age difference between the two of them. Other people that were considered for the role of Dr. Chase Meridian were Sandra Bullock, Robin Wright, and Linda Hamilton. That would have been kind of interesting. Obviously, Harvey Dent got recast because I remember he's barely in the first Batman movie, but Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams in that. He kind of has just like a very brief scene. So quite a lot of people that were cast like or potential Batmans were and Chase Meridian. They also even considered I think like Matt Damon for the role of Robin at one point. Apparently, there's a lot of like drama set between Val Kilmer and Joel Schumacher. That could be a potentially big reason why when they did the follow-up film, they just recast Batman with George Clooney. There was apparently also issues between Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. Like the quote, I think there's like an infamous quote or about Tommy Lee Jones saying that he can't quote sanction your buffoonery or whatever it is to Jim Carrey. And the soundtrack. We can't talk about Batman Forever without talking about the amazing soundtrack here. Let me just bring up the listing. Yeah, so the soundtrack to Batman Forever, it's one of those kind of very iconic soundtracks of the 90s. And it's just got a ton of great tracks on it. Kind of at a time where soundtracks were obviously more of like a much bigger deal. Let's see, how long is the soundtrack? It's about an hour long. Comes in at 14 tracks here. I'm just going to list these tracks off. So track one of the soundtrack is Hold Me, Throw Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me by U2. You have PJ Harvey with One Too Many. You have Brandy with "Where Are You Now," "Kiss from a Rose" by from Seal, iconic. I know that's on a 1994 album, and I think that song became as popular as it is now because of the soundtrack. You have "The Hunter Gets Captured by the Game" by Smokey Robinson. You have "Nobody Lives Without Love" by let's see here, Eddie Reader. What else we got here? Nobody Lives Without Love. "Tell Me Now" by Mazzy Star. "Smash It Up" by The Offspring. "There's a Light" by Nick Cave. "The Riddler" by Method Man. You have "The Passenger" by Michael Hutchence from In Excess, of course. You have "Crossing the River" by the Devlins. You have "Sunny Day Real Estate" with the track 8. And then "Bad Days" from the Flaming Lips. And just one of the most iconic movie soundtracks, I think, kind of all time, but definitely at a time where movie soundtracks were more of a like a thing. Like they didn't have streaming and stuff like that. So if you wanted to potentially get an album or get a song noticed, a good way to do it was either to record an original song for a soundtrack or somehow get one of your songs that was on a previous album onto a soundtrack. Like Seal's "Kiss" or "Kiss from a Rose" is on, I think, his 1994 album, and then it basically kind of became popular because of this movie. All right, so that is the soundtrack. We're now just going to get into a brief recap of the plot of this film. So basically, it starts off with Harvey Dent with Two-Face at a bank. Batman shows up, and again, it's the Second National Bank on the second anniversary of him being captured. Batman runs into Chase Meridian, who's like a criminal, like psychologist kind of character. Batman tries to get Two-Face and gets trapped in like a vault with the guard and like the acid that disfigured Harvey Dent. It's then shown in a flashback the trial where I think it's like Maroni is the dude's name. I think that's the guy who's played by Eric Roberts in the Christian Bale films, but he throws acid on Harvey and gets scarred. Bruce Wayne then cuts to like their tech division where they're talking about like all the like consumer electronics and stuff that they make. And Edward Nygma's like, "Hey, I got a cool thing that I want to show you that like deals with like brain waves and like manipulating brain waves and stuff like that." And Bruce Wayne's like, "All right, cool. Like, give me some schematics and like we can like take a look at it." And he's like, and then Edward Nygma's like, "No, I need an answer today." And he's like, "Well, if you need an answer today, the answer is going to be no because it just sounds too dangerous." He then basically tests the brainwave thing on his boss, who's like, it's like a fly fishing show, so you see him fly fishing. And then it's revealed that that I don't know if this was intentional, like if like he's like, "Hey, this would be a cool interactive TV kind of thing," but then the side effect of it is that he's able to basically intercept people's like thoughts. So I think that I don't know if they went into detail if that was a thing that Edward Nygma had already known about, or if it was like a side effect that he just like happened to discover. But basically, he ends up killing his boss, making it look like a suicide. There's like a video of the guy jumping out of a window and stuff like that. Fake, obviously fake video. But then Batman or Bruce Wayne has a meeting with Chase Meridian. I think like she's doing some kickboxing in her office, and he breaks the door down. They go to the Gotham Circus for like a date, and that's where the Flying Graysons are introduced. Obviously, Dick Grayson being among them. And Two-Face basically attacks the circus, like threatens to blow it up. Basically, he wants Batman. Basically, what happens then is the Flying Graysons, Dick and the rest of the Flying Graysons end up defusing this bomb. But then the Flying Graysons fall to their deaths, and basically Two-Face gets away. While all this is happening, Edward Nygma is experimenting with his technology to like see, like he's also trying to come up with like a character name. He's like, should it be the Puzzler? What about this? What about that? And he's got like a almost like the doll or the fortune telling thing in Big. It's like a thing that points at like it's like yes or no and question mark. And when he's like Riddler, it's like ding ding ding. It's like that. So then he becomes the Riddler at that point. But after that, there's like various like crimes that Batman is thwarting. There's almost like a farcical number of Batman gadgets in this movie. Like there's a part where the Batmobile has like a rope that can then make it climb walls. It almost feels like but it's kind of understandable because I know in the kind of the campy Adam West Batman stuff, you have stuff like shark repellent and stuff like that. So it kind of kind of makes sense. But Bruce Wayne is then takes in Dick Grayson to kind of like as like adopts him, and Dick wants to basically get Two-Face. He wants to become Batman's sidekick. Batman is very much against this, um, it's like for obvious reasons, of course. But then basically, I think what happens is Dick sneaks into the Bat Cave, steals a Batmobile, goes on like a joyride with it, and then at that point, the Riddler and Two Face team up. Two Face or Riddler goes to Two Face's like hideout, and they devise a plan. Be like, hey, I have this plan that's gonna involve doing some stuff, and also he's like, they're basically trying to figure out Batman's identity so they can basically just kill the Batman at this point. After that, like eventually Robin does become a full member of like the crew, so basically it's Batman and Robin now. They there's a whole bunch of stuff of Batman's past, which I thought was kind of silly because it seems like a lot of the Batman movies go through the origin story again and again and again. So like they cover it in the Keaton films, they cover it again here. They flash back to it quite a few times. Batman has like some weird like suppressed memories that he's like dealing with, and that's why he ends up bringing or like asking Chase Meridian for help. She's also falling in love with Batman, but also falling in love with Bruce Wayne. So it's kind of funny because like he goes to her house and she's like, "I met somebody," and he's like, there's this part where he turns to the camera and just smiles because he's like, regardless if it's Batman or Bruce Wayne, um, like I get to go out with this character kind of thing. But then Batman and basically what happens is there's like she's coming over for dinner. The Bat Cave. Basically, what happens is Halloween and Riddler and Two Face end up going to Batman's house. They basically like abduct Chase Meridian. They blow up the Bat Cave, and that's at that point where Robin joins up. They have a boat, like a bat boat, and a bat like glider, batwing kind of thing. They go to their hideout where basically there's like this thing called the box, which is brainwaves, but then basically it's like manipulating people's brainwaves, and then also Riddler at one point is like, I can get all kinds of information with this. I can get like credit card numbers and bank passwords and like all this other stuff. And he's like, if knowledge is power, then I'm a god, basically, because he has access to all this stuff. Because the thing that Enigma Tech is using is basically doing this interactive TV thing, but also grabbing people's thoughts. So Batman tests the machine out. He thinks it's off. Like I think Sugar is the character's name, played by Drew Barrymore. She unplugs the thing, and then when he goes in, she plugs it back in, and that's how Two-Face and Riddler discover that Bruce Wayne is Batman. So they try to use that against him, but they go to there's a fight between Robin and Two-Face where like basically he's like Two-Face is dangling off this like thing. Robin saves him, but then also gets attacked for not trying to kill him, I guess. And Chase Meridian is in it. They're both Robin and her are in this trap where it's like you can save one of them at a time, but you can't save both, and because they drop at the same time, kind of thing. But basically, it's Batman's like, I am Batman, but I'm also Bruce Wayne, so I can save both of them. So basically, what happens is the base gets blown up. The Riddler gets thrown in Arkham Asylum. There's a doctor. Didn't know this was played by Renee. I saw in the credits that Renee Auberjonois was in it. Obviously, Odo from Deep Space Nine, and then he plays like the like main doctor in Arkham, who's like talking to Chase Meridian. And he's like, "Oh, he thinks he knows who Batman is." And then you see Edward Nygma in his like gear. He's like, "I'm Batman." Like he's still like basically he's like crazy at that point. And then Chase Meridian is like, "Oh, your secret is safe." That's basically the movie. There's a lot going on. It's kind of a mess, but in like a good way. It was still a lot of fun. I think it was still slightly a step down from Batman Returns, but definitely better than Batman and Robin. It was kind of like it started on a high note with I think the '89 film, and each one was a little bit. A lot of people say that Batman Returns is better than Batman, but I think the original is a little bit better than Batman Returns. But Batman Forever is still a lot of fun. Definitely worth a rewatch if you haven't watched it in a while. But I had a lot of fun with it. So and it brought back a lot of like, just good memories of that summer of going to this movie like opening night with my best friend. It was pretty cool. But that's gonna do it for this video. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll be back again in a few days with a video or a computer game. No idea what that's going to be yet. We'll be back in a few days with that. And then we'll move into our next cycle in 1996. But that's going to do it for now. So thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.